There's no question that Avengers Endgame was a massive game changer for most of Earth's mightiest heroes, with the god of thunder, Thor, feeling the brunt of it. Even before Thanos got to his collecting and snapping ways, Thor was having a bad month, and Infinity War finally broke the Thunderer. With Thor retired to New Asgard with his dad bod and gaming buddies, he wasn't the ab-having hero that we've come to know, but he was still badass, and we'll tell you why. Trash is a troll. Online gaming has been great in some ways. Now you can fit thousands of people on your virtual couch to play a game, but the trade-off is that not everyone who plays these games with you are all that pleasant. Some people just want to watch the world burn, and it can be a total drag. We call those people trolls. And like any good mythological monster, the more you fight them, the stronger they get. While the internet troll might be a euphemism, for Thor, they're a literal and for real problem. A problem that Thor generally solves by hitting them with a hammer really hard. In Endgame, real troll head smasher Thor meets the internet version of a troll when one starts haunting his buddy from Sakaar, Korg. Korg has given up the gladiator life for hanging with his best bud Thor and getting in a few games of Fortnite. Being from another planet, Korg doesn't know how to use the chat function and has left himself open to the verbal abuse of Noob Master 69. Not one to let his friend down, Thor tells Noob Master 69 what happens when you mess with the god of thunder. Unlike actual trolls, internet trolls feed on threats and anger, but honestly, we all pictured Thor following through. Remembers his friends. Speaking of Korg and couch co-op, while Thor had a rough time of things, essentially cutting himself off from his people and the Avengers after dealing with his failure to stop the snap, there's one thing that he hasn't abandoned. That's, of course, his friends from Sakaar's gladiator arena, Korg and Miek, the rock giant alien with revolutionary ambitions who shouldn't have skimped out at the copier. Korg was Thor's first friend on Sakaar. Along with the knife-handed Miek, they helped Thor escape Sakaar and then evacuate the people of Asgard so that Surtur could deal with the Hela issue. Korg even tried to put a silver lining on the destruction of Asgard before it turned into space rubble. After Korg, Miek, and Valkyrie took the already fleeing Asgardians to safety, when Thanos showed up with his Infinity Stone shopping spree, Thor remembered his friends. It's true that Thor's been through a lot with his Avenger buddies, but they haven't seen him at his lowest the way Korg and Miek have. When he failed to live up to his save-the-day role in Wakanda, he returned to the two beings who were there at his lowest. While he was definitely hiding out from his responsibilities, he didn't forget those who were with him during the worst times. Still worthy. Thor's been dealing with issues of worthiness since his introduction in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. After he made the rash decision to take on the Frost Giants on his own, his father sent him to Earth without his hammer. Mjolnir got an enchantment that meant that only those who were worthy could lift it. It would take an act of sacrifice and valor, and a nasty bop on the chin from the Destroyer before Thor could be worthy of his hammer once again. Of course, the first thing that his sister did when she got back into town was to destroy Thor's sense of validation. Siblings, eh? When he failed to save half of the universe, his resolve finally crumbled. When Thor sent on his part of the time heist, he wasn't able to face Jane Foster or his noble past until he runs into his mom the day of her death. Like with Odin, Frigga was able to set her son back on the right course, and that's when Thor realizes he's in the past where there's still a Mjolnir. While it takes a moment, he's able to summon his trusty but judgy hammer, proving to himself that he was still worthy. Aimed for the head. There was a lot of blame to go around. When Thanos came to town and then reduced the population of everywhere by half, there were a lot of what-ifs. Only Thor, though, got his Monday morning quarterbacking from Thanos himself right after he delivered what he thought was the killer blow, avenging his brother, his friends, and his people. While the other Avengers struggled to produce a single drop of blood from the giant purple hate machine, with his new axe Stormbreaker, Thor was able to cut through a blast from the fully equipped Infinity Gauntlet and hit Thanos square in the chest. It was more than anyone else had been able to do to Thanos in his entire march to victory, and it would have worked too had it not been for the fact that the stones were already in place, and all Thanos had to do was snap his fingers to achieve his goal. Did they come with instructions? Who figured out that it required a snap? Anyway, before Thanos gave his fatal snap, he told Thor that he should have gone for the head. That advice stuck with him apparently, because when it became clear that Thanos was indeed inevitable, Thor did in fact swing for the head, much to the shock of those who came with him. Thor the Homesteader. The main journey for Thor throughout the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been whether or not he was ready and worthy to accept the throne of Asgard and lead his people as his father had done for thousands of years. When we first meet the God of Thunder, he's as far away from that responsibility as can be, restarting a war with the Frost Giants on what was essentially impulse. This of course leads to the notorious enchantment on Thor's hammer. While Thor eventually re-earns his hammer and then by extension his father's respect, he still has a lot to do before he can take on the mantle of ruler of Asgard. Over the course of Ragnarok, Thor had to take on that mantle whether he was ready or not. With his father gone and his sister breaking everything in sight, he had to make some hard decisions. One of the hardest was letting Surtur destroy Asgard, the source of Hela's power. Yeah, that was a rough one. Shortly after that, of course, Thor ran into Thanos, who had the Space Stone second on his shopping list. He was able to send off his people with Korg and Valkyrie to Earth, and then even in his demoralized state, he found them a new home in Norway. Asgard is a people, not a place, and even at his lowest, he found his people a new home. His sick beard. All of the Avengers have experimented with their look over the course of the last 11 years. Captain America went from the all-American USO tour outfit to stealth commando and then back again. Even the Tinkerer Iron Man could cycle through different armors over the course of one movie, especially when he needed to take on a raging Hulk that didn't want to hear about sunsets. Thor is not above experimenting with his look, but it wasn't always voluntarily. Those were some amazing locks that we wouldn't want him to cut even if it was by Stan Lee. But costume color and accessories or even hairstyles had nothing on the sharp changes for Thor's look in Endgame. While we were all used to the abs and the pecs of the God of Thunder, it took a while to adjust to the new dad bod. When it came time to confront the Thanos of the past and then bring back those who were lost, however, Thor was able to show that he can still bring the heat. With a blast of his trademark lightning, he got himself battle ready, including tidying up his facial hair into that sick braided beard. It's just so majestic. Copes with loss. Everyone lost someone in Endgame, some more than others. None of them, however, had lost as much as Thor. His losses began long before Thanos took matters into his own hands and then started fast-tracking his plan to, wipe out half of all life in the universe. Thor had more immediate problems with the death of his father, and then Big Sis breaking his toys and destroying his homeland. Then came Thanos, who got straight to killing his friend, and his brother and half of the Asgardians he had already fought so hard to save. While he was able to form a plan to get a new axe and then stop Thanos once and for all, he wasn't able to do that either, and he had Thanos' departing words ringing in his ears. He didn't take it well, but in not taking it well, he managed to deal with the struggle all too real for people who cope with loss and trauma. The fact that he wasn't able to immediately bounce back made the larger-than-life God of Thunder both mortal and relatable. While we might not be able to summon a pair of mythical weapons to confront our demons, watching Thor overcome his became something that we could all connect to in one way or another. I knew it. One of the best scenes in Age of Ultron was the end of Hydra after party at the Avengers Tower. When Hawkeye and the rest of the team started to doubt the legitimacy of Mjolnir's enchantment, the various team members took turns trying to lift the powerful hammer to no avail. Even Tony and Rhodey tried to team up with their power suits to lift it to no avail. If only they had asked the Hulk, he could have told them that they weren't going to be strong enough. He had already tried when he was tearing apart the helicarrier in the Avengers. Now, of course, by the end of Age of Ultron, Vision, who was kickstarted to life by a lightning blast from Mjolnir, was able to lift the hammer and then earn the trust of the team. There was one Avenger, however, who was able to move the needle a little bit when trying to lift the hammer, and that, of course, was Captain America. Fans have speculated that he was only not worthy because he was hiding Bucky's secret, or that he was worthy but didn't want to rule Asgard. But while Thor looked terrified at the time, when Cap lifted the iconic hammer to take on Thanos, he was all smiles, exclaiming, "I knew it!" Passes the torch. We already talked about Thor's long journey to worthiness to take over the throne of Asgard and lead his people, but while he dealt with his feelings of failure and loss, he had not been much of a king to his people. Now instead, he spent his time with his gladiator buddies, drinking beer, playing Fortnite, and yelling at trolls. It was a low time for the formerly ripped God of Thunder, and then during that time, the former Asgardian expat Valkyrie took care of the people of Asgard as they adjusted to their humble new digs on the cliffs of Norway. It was no small feat to settle people on a new world that lacked the magic and the extravagance of their former homeworld. Not to mention that the Asgardians had faced the same level of loss as Thor, but were themselves powerless to stop it. When Thor was able to deal with his depression and feelings of failure and then join the fight to bring back the Dusted, he was also able to recognize the efforts of the person that held the Asgardians together during his absence. Instead of stepping back into the role, he abdicated his throne to Valkyrie, who had already done a lot of the hard work. Part of being worthy is recognizing the worth of others. Defines himself. The other big part of Thor's journey is that it wasn't one of his choosing. He was born to rule Asgard and then spent thousands of years in the shadow of the All-Father Odin, being groomed for that role. There was such a focus on Thor becoming king that it fueled jealousy in his adopted brother Loki, leading to the two feuding across the various realms, including Midgard. Thor didn't really begin to question this destiny until he encountered the people of Midgard, and especially one particular Midgardian, Jane Foster. While that relationship didn't quite work out, he did find that there was a purpose for him outside of the ascendancy to the throne. After the fall of Asgard, the snapping, and the battle with Thanos, Thor finally was able to realize that he could create his own destiny, that he wasn't necessarily bound by his father's expectations. Leaving Asgard in the capable hands of Valkyrie, he was able to hitch a ride with the Guardians of the Galaxy to find his own fate out in the universe. This newly realized Thor is a great fit for the galaxy's misfits aboard the Benatar. Plus, it might lead to a chance encounter with one Beta Ray Bill? We can only hope. Those are some of the ways in which Thor was still worthy in Endgame, so what are your favorites? How did Thor show his worthiness to you? Let us know in the comments, and then while you're there, hit that subscribe button for more MCU videos from us here at CBR. Thanks for watching.